Hello, my C Sheep, Zebro here, and in this video we'll be discussing what is called a hybrid composition. So this video is kind of just a quickie to finish off the last 3 videos. If you haven't checked them out, they were on Brawl, Spam and Dive compositions, and I kind of went through the main points for each of them. In the future we'll touch up on these compositions again and talk through them in a bit more depth and how they play against each other, but you should already understand the basics of all 3 compositions. If you don't, then go and check out those videos. In reality, it's actually fairly rare that any of these 3 compositions get played. It's far more common for a combination of these 3 compositions to be played. We call these hybrid compositions. In the first video in this series, I mentioned that there was this rock, paper, scissors mechanic where Dive beats Spam, Spam beats Brawl, and Brawl beats Dive. This is because all 3 of these composition types have weaknesses. Brawl needs to close the distance, and if they can't, they really struggle. Spam needs to keep the distance and have long sight lines, and if they can't, then they struggle. And Dive can really struggle against close range characters and CC. And those are just some quick examples. They all have ton-loads of weaknesses and strengths too. Mixing up your composition with, let's say, Spam and Dive or Brawl and Spam helps cover up the natural weaknesses of your composition, as well as gives you multiple strengths. Yes, you are less strong at any one aspect of your composition, but there are much less weaknesses for your enemy to take advantage of. Let's look at an example. Fairly recently, at the time of making this video, Double Bubble has been meta. That is a composition that looks something like Winston, Zarya, Tracer, Ashe, Brig and Ana. In this composition you have a Winston, Tracer and Ana who are all good dive heroes, and you have Zarya and Brig who are Brawl characters. Yes, your team is less mobile than a pure dive composition, so you are limited on the dives that you can take, but your backline now has a Zarya, so you are stronger against pure dive compositions and Brawl compositions when they get close to you. Let's look at another example. Orisa, Reinhardt, Mei, Hanzo, Baptiste and Brig. You have a Orisa, Hanzo and Baptiste that are spam, but you have Reinhardt, Mei and Brig that can brawl. So you can sit behind 2 shields spamming, but as the enemy approaches you, you can initiate a brawl. And that's what makes these types of compositions so popular. You have multiple playstyles at your disposal, making you a lot less weak to most compositions. The problem occurs when your team looks at the main tank and assume what type of composition it is. They might look at a Winston and go, oh my god, this is a dive composition. They might look at a Reinhardt and go, wow, this is a Brawl composition. But to figure out how you want to play as a team, you need to look at every hero on your team as well as every hero on the enemy team. Let's say you are running that Orisa Reinhardt composition I was talking about a second ago. Namely, Orisa, Reinhardt, Mei, Hanzo, Baptiste and Mei. And let's say the enemy team is running Orisa, Sigma, Hanzo, Ashe, Baptiste and Zenyatta. In this case, your team will probably want to avoid playing for shield break and instead will want to close the distance and initiate a brawl. This is because the enemy team has a much more spam based composition than you do. Similarly, if the enemy team is running a Reinhardt, Zarya, Mei, Reaper, Lucia, Baptiste, then you probably want to play at a distance and spam them out if possible. And that's why these hybrid compositions are so powerful, because they are just so versatile. Similarly, you can actually change your playstyle based on ultimates. If you have the ultimate advantage, you might decide to take a brawl as quickly as possible to win the fight. Whereas if you have less ultimates, you might decide to use spam damage to build them up and make it harder for the enemy team to engage you. Similarly, if you have brawl based ultimates up like Blizzard and Rally, then you might want to close the distance so they can get value. Whereas if you have spam based ultimates ready, then you might want at least part of your team to remain further back. Non-hybrid compositions don't have the luxury of being able to switch between dive, spam and brawl and are much less versatile as a result. Obviously there are other reasons teams might decide to take a hybrid composition over a pure composition. Sometimes a character is just broken in the current patch, sometimes there is a natural synergy between characters, and sometimes you might just have a Genji one trick on your team. But knowing how hybrid compositions vary from non-hybrid compositions is really important if you are playing on a team or coaching a team. Anyways, that is it guys, sorry for the short video, but it is something that is really important and I didn't want to add it to the end of another video. In the next video we'll talk briefly about how each composition matches up against each other. I hope you enjoyed and learned something, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.